doing this?
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
You're comfortable with this chair?
Yes, I am.
This chair is good?
It's good.
How is this place?
It's nice. It's got air conditioning. It's got some nice
the
space.
colors,
It looks good.
I'm watching it first time.
Right? It looks nice. Hey, what a great weekend we just had.
I was just thinking about this.
Yep.
Like it's past 4 days, like the kind of stuff which we did, very interesting.
Yes, and for anybody watching the podcast, in the last 3 days I taught 6 workshops, I did a Q&A, and then last night we did a show with some of 5 other people, and it went great. And now I'm doing a podcast. That's all within 4 days.
And it was your off day, right?
Yes, this was my off day.
How many sandwiches you had in the past 3 days?
It feels like I've had about 20,000 just to keep going.
Yeah, just to tell you what, people, so for the 3 workshops, on an average it was 8 hours.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people who wanted to do a lot of stuff, so.
And I never wanted to say no, I just wanted to be able to work with as many people as I could.
Most of the food you had.
On the fly.
And so Sunday I decided that we'll go a bit early.
Yep.
Where I can get you a place where you can have a coffee.
Yes.
But again, things.
It didn't quite work out.
It didn't work out.
But I had a lot of ice mochas, had a lot of. The food was good. It was all sort of haphazard. It was like being what I heard is what it's like to be in an emergency room as a nurse or a doctor. You have your food and you get to it when you can.
Yeah.
But you got to take care of the people that are there first.
But how do you, it's 8 hours, how do you keep up this energy, because I just saw it,
Well, first off, I've been fortunate. I've always had a lot of energy in my life, and I've had a lot, just from childhood on, I've had a lot of energy. I used to mainly produce the Chicago Improv Festival, by and large, pretty much by myself, and that required a lot of energy. So I've always had a lot of energy. What's been easier about this in doing it is I get energy from other people as well. Not like in a vampire kind of way, but there's something that's there, and it makes it so much easier because there's something bouncing back. Like when I would produce the Chicago Improv Festival or a college improv tournament, and I would spend most of the time working on my own, there was nobody there to bounce off of except myself. And whereas this, even though I'm older and I don't have as much physical energy as I did, say, 20 years ago, I still have a lot of energy compared to a lot of people. But then I'm able to get energy from working with people or playing with people, seeing their discoveries, watching them learn something, watching them gain something. It's just so joyful that it's like a boost of energy.
And I was just surprised, one more thing that I observed, so we just for people, just to get some context. So there was one girl who was the part of the workshop, from yesterday, and she had to leave early, so she left early. And while coming back around 10 p.m.
Around 10 p.m.
You remembered that, and you said, who was that? Just tell her that this is the scene she did, and she did very good.
Yes.
And I just felt that really oh my God, you remember every bit of it, what happened in that day. So I messaged Darren.
Oh, thanks. And as we talk about, though, I don't remember her name. I have a hard time remembering a lot of names. Yeah. But it was nice of you to say that you thought it was more important that I remember what they're doing as an improviser, where they are, and where their growth is. Because sometimes when I return to places, because I go and then I'll come back. This is my second time in Mumbai. Hasn't been in 5 years because of COVID and other stuff. But in other cities or states or countries, if I come every year or every couple of years, I can remember where they were and see where they are, and be able to witness their growth artistically, and sort of be like a mirror for them and go, you were struggling with this 2 years ago and now you're here. So it's nice to be able to say, I can see how much artistically you're growing and changing and getting better.
So when you had this the festival thing, how many people how many groups used to come?
With the Chicago Improv Festival, it changed every year. So the first year we had about 30, maybe 35 groups. Performing in 6 days in 1 week in one venue. At our biggest, we had over 250 groups.
250 groups?
Over 250, performing in 20 locations in 1 week.
This is just, because we just did one location.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you had a team of a couple of people?
There'd be a couple of people who, it was almost like almost like circus work. You know, there'd be 8 months before I'd start working on the next festival, and it'd be pretty much working on my own. And then at about 6 months out, somebody would come in part-time, like one of the associate producers. And then a little bit after that, there'd be other people coming in place to either be other assistant producers as well as associate producers, or people sort of acting as managers, like an education manager. But they would all be working part-time, and the closer we got to the festival, the more people came in. And then we would also have interns. So by the time we had like somebody in charge of talent coordinating, so we also had drivers, because we would fly people in and put them up and have to pick them up at the airport and drive them around. So by the time the festival was happening, the week before, there might be 100 people working on the festival. And the week of the festival, there might be that many people working on the festival. And then the week after, it would be back down to me and maybe one other person. You know, once the festival was over, it would shrink down immediately to me and an associate producer. And then it was just sort of, that part of it would relay kind of dormant for a while, and then the next season would begin, and it would be like putting out the word to see about getting submissions, and whether or not there's an artistic director in place, or whether or not there's a curated crew of people to do it, and go from there. 20 years, I felt like a farmer. I kind of knew this is the time to plant the seeds.
For 20 years, the same thing? Like
pretty much the same rhythm, yeah. So it was like,
crazy.
it would, with the Chicago Improv Festival, it was anywhere from 5 to 8 months of my year focused working on it.
So I think maybe, so you maybe look at this improvising, like for like a couple of scenes, you can just tell a lot of things about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easily,
Absolutely.
Why improvise? Like why do people just fight? Like when why do they get angry whenever they start the scene? Most of the time when they're starting.
Yeah, I always feel like the reason why people are angry when they're starting a scene is because they're not comfortable. They're improvisationally insecure in the moment, and they're not comfortable. They haven't given themselves something to do, so they can't relax, and they're either looking for that something to do from the other person. Any uncertainty comes in there, and so it's so much easier to think that you're doing this, creating conflict, when improvisationally you're trying to elevate each other like this, rather than creating conflict.
So because they're nervous, they just want, this comes naturally.
Yeah, it comes naturally to be like, let's be argumentative about something, because they can figure that out immediately and do it.
It's always, you're getting late for work.
Yeah, exactly. Starting out with something.
Same. Yeah, so I think some of the exercises which we did, like, it's do your activity, like.
Yes. Yes, for me, I think I like to always start doing some sort of activity using object work, though I know some other people feel as long as you're doing something, like maybe a repeated phrase of words that you say, or an emotion, or something that you do that you can repeat, anything to fill you up.
Yes.
And then once you're full, you're less likely to make some of those choices that come from insecurity, and you're then able to do some of the things like, you know, what Martin Deont used to say, you play two people that like each other, play two people that want to get along, play two people that know each other. And most times that makes the scene easier to co-create than starting with conflict.
And I was thinking about that line, and this is a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this line a lot, because whenever I want to hang out, I'll always choose person whom I like.
Right.
So
yes.
it's always be like, we say, whatever is life that we take to the improv, and like,
yes.
Even if 15 minutes, if I want to spend 20 minutes, I call up my guys whom I comfortable.
Right.
So I won't make a plan with somebody who watch a film where we don't get along.
Correct.
So that makes a lot of sense. Like, of course we fight, but you go to places with people whom you like, you're comfortable.
If the scene turns out to where you're fighting, that's different.
Yeah.
But then usually there's a reason for it, like something's happened between those people, and that's why it's compelling to watch. Because we see people who start out liking each other, but maybe by the end there's a problem somewhere within the family or friends. And, it's much more moving than if they just start out, rah, 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 rah. Though you can have successful scenes that start that way. It's just a lot tougher, and I don't know if you have the same rate of success that you do if you start out playing two people that have a history, that like each other and want to get along with each other.
And now I exactly feel like what you've been teaching it for, and coming back to just the miming part. So I just need to give context. So what happened? You give us the exercise where do something which is
Yeah.
So I remember I was opening a door. So we got a suggestion of like a hotel room or a meeting room, and I was opening a door and I was looking outside, and I did couple of times, and then I just realized nothing is happening, and there was one guy who was standing next to me, and I didn't see that also.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that scene didn't go anywhere because
Right.
you're not committed to this. And if I'm opening a door, there was somebody there, I didn't recognize that.
Right.
So it just, and then with something or the other it went, but and then I realized, because I didn't mean it, I was just randomly doing this.
Yeah, you're right. So you weren't invested in it.
Yeah, and then you stopped us and I asked you, please, Jonathan, can I do again? You said do it, but make sure you've committed to the thing. Then we did a scene where I'm a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
So I never made a tattoo, or I just know.
But you were dealing with the ink and the pen, and
Yeah,
it was very specific and
Yeah.
seemed very
So
real.
I tried to do this for a bit, and then you said when you genuinely feel like asking, then ask something. Whatever feel
Right,
like.
whenever you're ready to speak.
And then that's what and genuinely I waited and I asked the other guy how was it doing? Or something like that. But that completely changed from the first.
Yes. Yeah, it was, you were connected to what you were doing, which made it easier for you to connect to the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what difference you see in like performers like let's say like Bombay, you see whatever bit of you saw, like what is the difference like in the performer like you see?
I get asked this a lot since
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot,
Yeah.
and my answer is very broad and it's not everybody does so many different things. It's hard to say just one thing. So in a generalization, it's my experience that in general, European improvisers like to improvise something with theatrical production value. They want it to feel like theater, they want it to look like theater. Not necessarily in the UK, because the UK has a lot of stuff that's more focused on words and funny, but they have a lot of theatrical stuff as well, but there's more of an American influence in some of the improv in the UK. But overall, Europe, they like to, they want it to look like theater, they want it to feel like theater, they want the audience to interact with it as theater, as opposed to, here's a theater, sports, and comedy club or something like that. And in Asia, in general, I feel like audiences and improvisers want to have a broader range of emotional responses than just laughter.
Yeah.
Audiences want to gasp, they want to cry, they want to woo if somebody says something a little nasty. So I've seen Asian audiences are much more, very, very engaged. They're much more engaged, and they react to the different emotions that are happening in a scene. And it almost feels like if you just make them laugh, they almost feel like they've not had enough.
Yes.
Like you've just served them one type of food versus a whole range of food. And again, there are shows in Asia that are also have theater and production value, so that's why it's not that. That's why I'm just saying these are generalizations. And then in Australia and New Zealand, I feel like in that Oceania area, what they focus on is narrative work, because they're very Keith Johnstone heavy. So narrative work, and then also sort of genre. That's sort of what they're interested in, because they really like telling stories. From what I've heard, and I've not yet seen it yet because I've not been to South America, but it seems like South American stuff is very physical, very energetic, and very bright clothing-wise, like to make an impact. But I've only heard that secondhand from other people. I have not been down there yet.
So just the thought that came to say, they play a lot of football.
It's like they're sort of influenced by football, and then in America, you have New York, Chicago, LA as the big three, and there it seems like improv is the route to get into the industry. People want to get in the industry, Hollywood, TV, film, making podcasts, making web series, and just like a lot of people here in Mumbai are interested in doing the kind of work that you do, being in Bollywood and being involved in stuff like that. So the big three, a lot of improv seems to be the place where people go once they have learned their chops, once they've made that what they are, and then they go there to get further training, but not training like beginning training, but training like how to work with people that are really good, and then get ready for the possibility of having a career. in LA or New York or Chicago. So there's some experimentation being done still, but it's not, in Chicago it seemed much more experimental in the 90s and the 2000s, but it seems like now it's very much like a highway or an entry ramp towards their larger goals. And, great. The rest of America isn't as focused on that because they are not taken out as much from those places by casting agents or managers. So there are more parts of America where certainly the average city will have 2 improv groups, the short form group and the long form group, and they often don't get along, which again makes no sense to me. But then you'll have certain cities like Austin that has, feels like it has 8 different groups and they all get along and they really are interested in the community and they focus on different styles. Minneapolis had a really great scene for a long time. There's a theater called Huge Theater, it was great. They just recently closed. Seattle and Portland are a little more experimental. San Francisco is more story and Johnstone based, but by and large, most of America is like 2 improv groups, the short form group and the long form group. And then, people then decide whether or not they want to move to Chicago, New York, LA, and if they're in Chicago, they decide whether or not they move to New York or LA, because that's where TV and film is.
That's a very, very good question. Even like here in Mumbai, our group, like when we started, so we had like 10, 12 people, but then I realized everybody after a point, the learning curve changes, and some people just go to some this. And that's why I realized that why people don't get along after a point. They're okay otherwise, but something doesn't on stage. They have some other ideas about how they want to play.
Yeah.
And that's why first I always used to wonder why this happens.
Sure.
But now, like me had a lot of creative differences with other people, and then when we had arguments, we used to feel like, but now I'm just, after 3 years, I'm thinking it's fine. You want to do it that way, I want to do it this way. And it's completely fine.
Let's both go our different directions and do that way, and then if later on we can play together again,
yes,
great.
It's nothing, and most of the time, it's you're fighting on some small things about this. When you think about it now, it's like, what stupid things.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, everyone make their own style,
Right.
For example, for me, Hindi comes very naturally to me.
Yes.
So I speak English, but when I teach or something, Hindi is my thing. So that's what I do. But the other people who are better with the English is their thing. So I'm just saying it's okay for everybody. This is there, that is there, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But I think that's the reason the ideology changes. Someone make this. You can't ask questions.
Right. Whatever that. And some of these arguments, to me, hold back the art or the artist.
Yeah.
Mick Napier said that this is one of the few art forms, I'm paraphrasing him, that preaches itself as being based on time, short form, long form, versus what you're actually doing within the work that you're doing. I think that the bigger sort of conversation could be had between, are you trying to do improv comedy or improv theater or something sort of experimental? Because I think that the people that do comedy play a certain way, the way they play characters, the way they play relationships, the speed at which they play, what's okay to do in terms of editing or changing or not is very different with them. And then people that want to do improv theater have a different way of wanting to play relationships and the characters. And so it seems like what those people want to do is based on either do you want to do comedy or theater. And then the people that are happy doing both tend to be very popular in their scene because everybody wants to work with them.
100%.
And then you have this other smaller section of people that want to do experimental work through improvisation, whether it be narrative or non-narrative driven, but it's still just experimental. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I try to get people to talk to each other, before they do scenes or before they do shows, is because I feel like that's some of the bigger conversation to have. Yeah. What are we trying to do here? What is the agreement of the show we're trying to create? Versus, almost like 2 religions, short form only, long form only. And I think even in some ways, some of the other parts of the world, if there's any of those things where they're like, well, you can't do this style of work because we do this style of work. And that's the work. Yeah. And, Amsterdam, they have Boom Chicago, which is a very funny comedy review sketch, high-end tech, and they do a very stylized version of comedy that's really comedy. and it works really well. They do great. And then there's another improv theater there called Flock Theater, and they do very genre-based stuff, or they'll see a movie that they like and then try to turn it into an improv show. And what's nice is, even though they may not have a lot of crossover of actors, they don't speak badly of each other. They don't go like, this way is the right way or that way is the right way. They're just different, you know, and so they accept the differences. Though that could just be something more about them being Amsterdam people rather than...
everybody's happy there.
Well, I wouldn't know. They get a reputation for being happy, but they're also a little cold, so I think it's more like they just stay out of each other's business. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, whereas I think that in Mumbai and in Bangalore, there's a desire to go, this is our troupe, this is our team, we're going to circle the wagons around it and keep it just for these people. That's
what I same thing I just want to ask. So like, we also like, this is my group, like, you know, this group, and like 5-6 years back, like, this group thing didn't make fun to me at all. Like,
and it's better, to me, it's better to have a community. Because the more people that are involved, the more people that are playing, the more that hopefully the work gets better. And then if 3 people from different places want to go form a music group and go, I like doing improv music, you like doing improv music, so do you. Well, let's go do it. You know, and then to me, when you have more of a community, there's much more crossover.
100%. And
then different people can work with different people based on what the work is that they want to do together versus this is our camp, this is our camp.
And like, the commitment part, like, you know, I like what we did.
Yes.
It's like, there's no commitment, like, you know, this is like, it's a gig, it's for 3 workshops, let's come together, have fun, eat food, everything, and like, say goodbye. And we'll come back again. I like this. You know, people say, Akit, you have a problem with commitment. I have no problem with commitment. I like this way. This is better, like, you know, we're not here for like, want to do everything together. This is a small gig, it's for 3 months, we have something, let's do it. And you do your thing also, so that will help more. And that's what I tell the community in Mumbai, like, you know, don't ask each other to come for your show. Like, you know, let's focus on bringing more people. Because I come to watch your show, you come to my show. We need more people, like, you know.
We need more civilians.
A random guy.
More civilians.
And that's something should be focused on. So just I don't like, let's focus more there. It is. And
because how many people live in Mumbai?
There are the amount of people there are in Australia.
So, you know, back when I was in theater management class at the University of New Mexico, one of the things they said is that you can kind of sort of plan on average that 3% of that population will go see live theater. 3%. And so that may not sound like much, but when you think about 3% of Mumbai, that's a lot of people that can technically go see theater if they know about it. And so rather than arguing about whose pizza is better, I feel like you want to get more people in the room so that more people can see the work and more people can get engaged with it and more people can have fun, and then it will help everybody.
And what do you like of teaching improv? Like, what do you like about it?
What I really like is watching people make discoveries, you know, with however I'm guiding them, with whatever way I'm teaching them. I like watching them in some ways teach themselves. Not in the sense that I lay back and don't say anything or don't get involved, but I feel like I'm more like a Sherpa guide, rather than, you know, it's my job to go with them up the mountain and point the way and sometimes lead the way. But I love watching people learn. I love watching people make discoveries. I love watching people get engaged in what they're doing and then being excited about it. I mean, that's part of the real fun of it. And also them realizing that not only as they get better at improv, they also get better at being a human being.
100%.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, so how do, like, a group, like, you know, as you said sometimes, like, do creative, like, do varieties of shows. So what, like, we used to do varieties of shows, but you, like, I've heard, like, what we did yesterday, like the cut to part.
The cutting room.
Cutting room. How did you, like, come up with such thing, like, you know?
Well, I didn't come up with cutting room. A guy named Peter did. He lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. No, he lives in Glasgow. But he's a stand-up comic, and he came up with the form. And I was part of a guest for an all-Scottish group at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and we did 21 shows in 19 days. So I had a lot of time playing with it, and then I asked Pete if I could keep doing it elsewhere in other parts of the world, and he said yes. And so no, it's his form. The modifications on it are what I put into it, but it's his form.
Yeah, okay.
He created the form, and then I was like, oh, I could tweak this, but if he didn't create the form, there's nothing to tweak. So yeah, he created that, and then I just tweaked in certain things, because coming from Chicago, we're more apt to be, part of our training is to seek patterns or be aware of patterns, because that allows us to make connections of things that might not have seemed connected.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to find connections and things that seem separate, but then making them connected and fusing them together creates either like metaphors or motifs, or you suddenly have, hey, this character that was in this scene over here is now in this scene over here, and there's a relationship between them, and that becomes a moment of like, aha. So when Pete created the cutting room, he wanted it to be more sort of separated, each thing separated, almost like a kaleidoscope. Every time you turn it, there's something different. And whereas for me, having got all my Chicago training, I'm like, we've just created 25 scenes. Which one of these scenes would be fun to bring back, and which characters might be fun to make connect and put them in the same place? And so that's what I did while I was playing in Scotland, and Pete liked it, and the rest of the group liked it. It was great playing with all the Scottish improvisers there, and it was a lot of fun. And then, I learned things from them, they learned things from me.
Yeah.
Part of what I like is I'm still learning. I've been doing improv since I was 20, and I'm still learning. And I feel like that's the same with anybody who's really committed to an art form, that there's always something new. Because your connection is to that process of that art rather than the process of fame.
So just you being curious about, like, just excites you, like, what's that?
I love when I learn something new that I didn't know before. I mean, I just love learning to begin with, but also if I learn something new about this art form or the people that are in it, I gain more. Because I feel like if you're a painter and you feel like you know all the ways there are to paint, you're probably never going to paint again.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, whereas like, everybody loves cricket here.
Yes.
If they didn't get old, cricket players would keep playing as long as they could.
Yes.
And they'd still be learning new things while playing.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the thing that's nice about a creative art form, and having that be something in my life, is that I can still keep learning new things. I feel like if there reaches a day where I feel like I've learned everything and there's nothing else to learn, it's the day that I will probably never do improv again, because I'll be like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And
I think that day is that normally usually that day never comes.
Right, because as different places around the world are taking the vocabularies and ideas and thoughts of improvisation, but filtering them through their own culture and filtering them through their own city and their own world and their own life, they're finding new things, and they're finding their voice and they're speaking from it. So as time progresses, with the younger generations, what they come up with for improv, and what the different countries come up with as they develop their own form. Because to me, improvisation should not just look like how it is in a particular American city.
Yes.
It's a process, a way of doing art and craft and theater, and there's so many ways to do theater. So it's more like, this is the way of learning how to do this, and this is the essence of it, but now go and make something of it with yourself, with your own voice, with your own culture, with your own lives, and then build off of that and make that happen. And then that's exciting to me to see, because then I, will see somebody I haven't seen before, or I'll see a way of doing it or a lesson about doing it that I didn't know existed before. So, Vincent van Gogh, even shortly before he died by suicide, his last 6 months, he was actually doing Japanese style paintings, like cherry blossoms and things like that. And they looked nothing like his other paintings, because he was learning what he could from that style of painting. So it was interesting to me to go, oh look, Vincent van Gogh, even at the end of his life, was still learning new things about his art form. And Picasso did a similar kind of thing, even though we all know that, that Picasso is a jerk as a person. But as an artist, he kept learning new things and trying new things, and that's why he had so many different periods. It's almost like stereotypical thing of like a jazz musician. They've gotten really good, they've become this thing, and then they disappear for a year or two.
Yeah.
And they've either been off playing at a park, or they went to another country and learned a whole different style of music, and then they come back and fuse it together. To me, that's part of the path of being an artist.
100%.
Because
Just a little bit of challenge, like
yeah,
challenge. You feel like the challenge is that much where you feel like, okay, I'll try to do it.
yes,
But then it's, I just can't do it at all.
right,
So, which is a little bit difficult, but it's not impossible. And that challenge is good.
yes. And, even just simple challenges like yesterday in our show, some of the games, there was games being combined with other games in a way that I'd never seen before. I knew this game, First time they were combined together like that. And then I was like, oh, that's a bit of a challenge. I've never done this game with that game before. And how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it with somebody else? What are we going to find? And so, and then there was like a game that, I think there was a game or two within that I'd never even played before in my life. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to figure this out on the fly. Then we did the mid-form, which was like kind of doing scenes on a theme.
Yes.
And that went really well. And then I introduced the cutting room to everybody, and I did mention Pete's name. And as I was telling the audience how the cutting room worked, I was also telling you guys, the other 6 players, how it worked, and then we all learned it together at the same time. And, that was a situation where we all learned something new by playing together, these different things, as well as the audience did, and that's part of what makes that so exciting.
Yeah, I think we'll do this, we got something new now.
Yeah.
And we love it. What are the other this, the cutting room, right?
Yeah, the cutting room. Yeah.
What are the other such format that's your favorite,
There was a format created out of IO called the Armando Diaz, and it's sometimes just called the Armando. And I really like it because you have a guest person to tell a story, and they get up and tell a story, then the people improvise thematically off of that story. It's similar to playback theater in some ways because you hear a story, but unlike playback theater, which then does sort of a variation of the exact same story, here you're taking elements of that story to be inspired to then go off and do other scenes. Del Close is famous for creating the Herald, but he also created the montage. And I really like the montage more along the lines of the way he created in the beginning, which was more cinematic. An improv group that I was in called Stone Soup, we were inspired by Del creating the montage from using it from film techniques. So Tom and Barb Poole, who were the founders of Stone Soup, they were like, what else can we do? What other art forms can we pull from to try and make an improv form? And they created what's called the collage. And I played in the collage when I was in Stone Soup, and I loved it. And it's a very fun form. And you try to explain to somebody really quickly, and it's like a collage. You're just putting different things up there, and finding random patterns, and there are a little bit of everything and nothing, and all of a sudden you have something. So I really like the collage as a form because it's very entertaining for audiences. For some of the works that I do, the works that I create are more theatrical. I do a show called The Silent Movie, which is where audiences come in, they get popcorn, the actors are dressed in black, gray, and white with black and white makeup, and they're improvising scenes in front of like a white screen lit by some sort of movie projector with silent movie music going on. I also do something called Storybox, which is ensemble-based narrative long form where everybody has sticks and cloth, and they're all storytellers creating one large story. And then I also do something called the Oracle, which is based on the Greek Delphi Oracle, where audiences come in, write out questions, and then the actors improvising as the Delphi end up exploring those questions, and then the answer will be revealed by who's ever playing the priest or priestess. So those, like the silent movie is very much improv as theater. Storybox and the Oracle are very much like improv as experimental work. And then, something like the collage and the cutting room is just plain comedy. So, those are some of the forms I like to play, depending upon who I'm playing with and the situation that I'm playing at and the location of where it's playing at. Because I'm very much believe that the environment has a huge part to play on where you're playing. Because there's certain things, I talk about it a lot, yesterday a lot. If we're doing bar prov, there's a lot of things that I won't do because I know it's not going to work.
100%.
And if you're doing bar prov, you got to be in hard focus. you got to try to get that laugh every 30 seconds. And there's certain things, you know, like the depth of a character relationship. I won't do it in a bar prov because it's just not the situation for it.
Yes.
It's not going to make them happy, and it's not going to be fun to do. Whereas in a lot of other locations, you know, I won't necessarily do something like last night. We were in a cafe, and so that led to have more room for more theater stuff, but also still very funny stuff.
Yes.
We got some huge laughs last
Yes,
night.
yeah.
But you know, also some of this huge laugh came because we were zigzagging.
Hmm.
You know, here's something over here that's this way, maybe very physical comedy, then something that's character based over here, and then something over here that might be more social commentary. I mean, so we were zigzagging through a lot. And, you know, so as such, if I'm in a cafe, I have a freedom to do things that I would not do in a bar. And so that's why I really believe environment's a huge important part of where improvisation exists.
And it's such an important part, just like, you know, what does the space look like?
Right.
It's so much, and I realized something like, you know, when we used to my group used to do regular shows at some place, and I was late that day. So first time I got a chance to be in the audience. So I was just watching, like, because there's never a chance where there's an audience. It's a show and you're watching it from outside because we have 4 or 5 people team. You're always on the other side. And then what I realized is when the audience is not laughing, the improviser is going towards the wall.
Yes.
It's just going backward.
I would say nervous improvisers head for the wall
Yeah.
because it's one of the few things that's real.
Yeah.
So it makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
I also believe a lot of times improvisers will, if they sit in a chair, they won't leave the chair.
Yes.
Because again, it's something that's real. So
Comforting,
they feel
yeah.
comforting because it's
Yeah.
safe. But no, improvisers, when they're nervous, they head for the back wall.
And the voice also go down.
Right, yes. Every time I play in a new environment, I always walk around in the space and get a sense of it, see what it feels like to stand on. I get a sense of where's, you know, is stage center the same as audience center? Because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Try to get a sense of the vibe of it from walking around, and also realize how loud I have to be heard. And that's different places and different locations. What does the lighting look like, if there is any? How close is the nearest people to sit towards you? I love also doing scenes in the audience.
Yeah.
You know, at least once a show, I try to leave and go out in the audience. I did that yesterday. And so one of the other things I like to figure out is where do I go to get into the audience?
And you involve everybody, like, you know.
Yeah.
So what you did, like, you playing a kid?
Yes, I was playing a kid and I made the entire audience my friends.
Yeah, and you said, I'm leaving my house.
I'm running away from home.
Don't tell my parents about this.
That's
And
right.
some of them said, yes, we won't.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
See, what connection it is, like. I'm just saying it like, you know, it is you're bringing the audience with, like, there's no right way to do this.
Yeah.
And you know, if you go into a technicality.
Well, you also do it as well. You know, I saw when you introduced some of the stuff, when you just pretend there's no fourth wall, then they're there with us.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you did a lovely job in the introduction of the mid-form to get to talk to people about the scenes and make those connections. To me, I feel like that's really important. I want the audience to know whatever show we're doing, we're glad they're there. And we see that they're there, and then they're part of it.
That's so much part of the show, right? And like we always think like I'm a character, my scene, but that's one of it. There is so much of this.
Yeah.
Everything is part of it.
I also, yes, everything is a part of it, and that's why I love going around, not just on stage, but through the audience, because to me, it teaches or shows the audience that play can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
And then they're more apt to be on the edge of their seat if we're out there every now and then, because play can happen anytime, anywhere, versus just sitting back being the audience, being entertained.
I think same. So we have one of the improvisers, Avinash, you know.
Yes,
knows him.
Yep.
So he always like when he plays a kid or somebody, he just goes to the audience.
Yeah, that's smart.
And like because why is it? What is the need of all that? Like because I realize it's such a limited thinking of when I used to always see it's what's the need of it, but now I just see it. Oh my God! I didn't think of it, and like this is a possibility, and and if you start seeing all this, and it's a great thing when someone is doing it, and get inspired rather than what was the need and all that.
When I was performing with that group in Scotland, not that they'd ever, I don't know if they'd ever seen anyone play in the audience before, because I don't know about their history to know, but I know that when the first couple shows when I went out to the audience, it surprised them. And whether or not, for whatever reason, it surprised them, but they got used to it. By the end of the run, everybody was going in the audience. All the entire cast was going into the audience. So I think that everyone felt like, oh, you can do this, it's okay. I did have some people say, we're not used to watching somebody leave the stage to perform somewhere else. I mean, the performers were saying that. And I was like, I'm just going to keep doing it. And then, you know, also it's important to, when I'm moving through the audience, see who's willing to play along and who's not. Because if they're not, I'm not going to bother them. But if they are, I'll use them. I've also done a lot of children's theater and doing a lot of children improv, you know, for children audiences. Similar kind of thing of being aware who wants to play, who's open to be involved, and you know how you can connect with them. It's not so much that you have to build the whole show for the audience, but it's nice to think of them as an additional teammate. They're not the, you know, they're not the judge and jury. They're just another player amongst our team. And
so I was reading about the TJ and Dave, and like, you know, the statement, improviser lives an interesting life.
Yes.
And I don't know what it means, because these are the words, like, you know, I haven't experienced it, like, so, but I'm just looking at it. I spent 4 days with you, and like, you know, just you being curious, like, you know, and you're so much interested, like, this is what I've observed, and so I'm just understanding what this is. You're genuinely interested in people, genuinely, why this rickshaw has a purple patch, why the trees are such, just like, very interested in things, and I think maybe that's what they meant.
Very well, yeah. Plus, by being improv leads an interesting life because it goes lots of places.
Yeah.
And the improvisers go lots of places, and you don't necessarily know where you're going until you're there.
Yeah.
But it goes all over the place, and it brings you adventures that just staying in one spot and saying no doesn't get you.
Yeah.
Like this podcast.
Cool, Jonathan. We had like good discussion about it.
Yes.
Anything you want to talk or anything you want to say to?
I just want to say thank you to Akit because he set up all these workshops, and I get to work with a lot of people because of him. And I hope many more people come here so that more people can learn from, you know, not just from me, but from lots of different people, because there's a lot of talent here, and it's a fun city. So I hope that everything continues to grow. And I know that you said part of why you're excited about working with me was because you wanted to grow.
Yeah.
And that could be a challenge sometimes when you're the person creating the community. You're helping build everybody else up, but you don't get a chance to keep growing. So I hope more of that happens, because you're a talented guy and you deserve that as well. And you got the makings of a great scene here in the city.
And so much fun playing with you, like.
Absolutely.
Like the scenes and everything. So much, because when I'm performing with any, like, whom I don't know, and if one thing is the language, I'm more focused.
Right.
I'm more alert.
Yeah.
And that's a good space, like, I'd like to be in. And you, like, you keep on bringing new things, and like we're playing a game.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, like, you know, the challenge again. You challenge the other guys, and that's everybody. That's what we do it, right? That's what we do it.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, what's the point of it?
Right. I say this all the time, so I'll close your podcast with this.
Yeah.
I sincerely believe that to play is a divine right of being human.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Cool, Jonathan. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Oh, great. We did it.
Yes, we did.